The question asks, which of the following should the Agile practitioner use? All right, let's dive in. An Agile practitioner needs to establish an objective range of values to be displayed on an information radiator to indicate whether a process is stable. So stability of a process, bing, 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 what does that make us think about? Well, we might go back to our waterfall days and think about statistical process control charts. Now, they're not just a waterfall tool, they're a human tool, bro. Anybody can use them. Actually, machines can use them too. It's just a way to understand the stability or the nature, technically the nature of a process, what its stability is. I like to think of statistical process control as the voice of the process. We can arbitrarily set values, but if we want to understand what the level of production is, like what we expect from a process, we use the statistical process control, math to figure out what the upper and lower control limits are, and we figure that out, and then we can set specification limits against those control limits to say, here's what we have to deliver to the customer. Are we within or outside of it? But I think this is all around control limits of that spec. I ain't even looking at the answers yet. And that's the way you got to be. You got to be free-form, talking, thinking, acting as you go, and then get into the dissection. So let's go look at the answer. Process boundaries, I understand what they probably mean. Hey, operate between here, but that's not the official term. Gone. We didn't invent the terms. We just use them. Specifications limits. Yes, in a sense, specification limits are what we arbitrarily set. So on contractually to say, we have signed a contract or we have established on the bottle that it needs to be between this level and this level for the product, whatever it is. So those would be like boom, boom, process or specification limits that we have to meet, okay? Process metrics for C is just numbers that pop out. That's not ready. The control limits. So we're going to see how specific this question is as far as like the nature of what they want. So control limits is the voice of the process, okay? That is what the actual process will produce, okay? So that's what it is. Control limits are what the process will be producing. The specification limits are the standards between which we must meet, okay? All right, so let's go back to the question and see what it's actually asking for. Slow it on down. An Agile practitioner needs to establish an objective range of values to be displayed on the information radiator, okay, to indicate whether a process is stable, okay? So the stability of the process is indicated by the control limits. That's the voice of the process saying that in the past, this is our performance, and based on that, this is what we expect to be normal or in stable form for a process. So as we go through, here's math picture-wise, rough picture, how it works. Here's what our data points would be if we just take samples as we go through. They would be operating under some range. Some would be high, some would be low. And what the math does is it says, hey man, here's the average. The math is talking, not us. The math is talking. And it says, hey, if you were going to bet your house and Scott's life on it, I would bet that the results, if the process stays stable and nothing changes, are going to be between the upper control limit and the lower control limit. This is the process, the past results, the math talking, okay? And so we say, okay, sweet. So from now on, to evaluate whether the process stays in control, we should check to make sure that things fall between these limits. So from now on, we would look at it and say, okay, so where's the data? Bing, bing, bing. If it's falling within these lines, which technically kind of look like a road, don't they? So as long as it's on the road, don't freak out. Now, the farther it gets and closer out here, we're getting closer to like, yo, what's going on? And definitely if it gets out here, we want to understand. But if as long as it's within the lines, the upper and lower control limits, reasonable, expected, under the natural patterns of natural variation, okay? Now, so I would say control limits. And then also, if we want to get real nerdy with this, outside obviously puts our attention to say, whoa, they're in the ditch. Let's go look to see if this is a one-time thing or something has really changed with the process. And there are these other things called Short 7 patterns. And there's other patterns of data, like a bunch of points on one side or the other of the average, where mathematically it's like, yo, bro, that's unique, that's unlikely, that's different. We might want to go look at it. You don't have to know about that for this. If you want to know about it, talk to me about black belt class, and I'll help you out there. But that's what we're talking about. So I think the answer is control limits. Let's go. Let's check it out. Here we go. Boop. Control limits. Yay! We got it right. So what do we learn? That the voice of the system is the upper and lower control limits that tells us normally this is what we would expect. Anything outside, yo, you might want to look into it. Anything weird patterns, yo, you might want to look into it. But if it's just naturally popping around within those lines on the road, if you will, don't freak out. Don't get excited. Don't think anything's really changing. It's just natural variation. Woo, that was a long one, but a good one. See you later, alligator.